Paul Delaroche was born in 1797 in Paris in the immediate aftermath of the French Revolution. Delaroche's most famous work today is probably the National Gallery's The Execution of Lady Jane Grey, depicting the teenaged great-niece of Henry VIII, known as the 9 Days Queen. The impact of this painting was to influence our perception of Jane for the next 175 years.
The real Jane Grey is extraordinarily elusive because two completely conflicting images of her have come down to us in history. One is of the steadfast martyr, the Protestant heroine who went confidently to her death. The other one is the innocent victim who was manipulated and abused by those around her.
Jane was the granddaughter of Henry VIII's sister Mary. Henry had decreed that she should become queen if his own children, Edward, Mary and Elizabeth, were all to die. In 1553, Henry's son, the young Edward VI, became fatally ill with tuberculosis. A fanatical Protestant, he decided to exclude his two sisters from the succession on the grounds that Mary was Catholic and Elizabeth, though Protestant, was not Protestant enough. Jane was declared queen on Edward's death in the summer of 1553. She based herself at the Tower of London, which is where all Tudor monarchs began their reigns. But not even the Tower could protect her from Mary Tudor's supporters.
The citizens of London never liked it. They were for Mary because they wanted to follow Henry VIII's will. And of course Mary raised an army. The Duke of Northumberland went to defeat her, his troops melted away. Mary was soon back in London, controlling London. Jane was in the Tower.
Jane was executed on the 12th of February 1554 within the privacy of the Tower grounds on a scaffold erected behind the White Tower.
Her execution was, if you like, double reported. There's an authentic version and there's an apocryphal version. In the authentic version, she walks boldly, steadfastly to her death, confident, dressed in black, reading a prayer book. There's no fumbling, there's no hesitation. But there's another version that appeared about 6 months later, and in that, Jane is the innocent victim. She has been abused and manipulated, and she is groping blindly for the block. She's vulnerable. Now, it's that version that Delaroche gets hold of through a French source, and he does this extraordinary painting.
What we have is a fascinating amalgam of costumes and dress history. If we take a first look at the ladies in waiting on the left-hand side of the picture, we've got two people actually clothed in fantastic, quite accurate 16th century costume. The executioner on the right-hand side has a few historical indicators that are accurate to the period, but the overall impression of the executioner is much more Italianate. I wouldn't have expected to see somebody like that in the Tower of London. And this is presumably Delaroche's impression of the undergarments of a Tudor woman. But actually, the overall silhouette is definitely much more an 1830s shape.
Stephen Bann, the exhibition's co-curator, believes that a young actress called Anaïs Aubert was the model for Lady Jane Grey.
I first became interested in Anaïs because I acquired a drawing which Paul Delaroche had actually dedicated to her with a particularly intimate signature, and which she'd then given away to a friend in 1836. So I thought there must be a reason for him to give it to her in the first place, and also a reason for her to give it away. I didn't actually proceed much in that line of inquiry until I actually managed to acquire 2 letters, and these again are full of expressions of devotion, a passionate love. But they also talked about arrangements for doing a portrait of her, for what we might describe as a sitting, or almost a tableau vivant, which would be used for the ultimate production of the final painted version of the Lady Jane Grey.
Such was the disregard for Delaroche by the early 20th century that when Lady Jane Grey was damaged in a flood while at Tate in 1928, no one even bothered to investigate the extent of the damage for almost 50 years. It was simply written off as completely ruined. Quite by chance, the painting was unrolled in 1973 and found to be in almost pristine condition. It was dirty and a little scratched and torn, but these photographs show the picture as it was cleaned and repaired by the National Gallery's Conservation Department. In 1975, it was put back on display at the National Gallery and rapidly took its place as one of the public's favourite paintings.